The wind howled across the frozen plains of Hanil 4, carrying ice crystals that stung like tiny needles. Taman pulled his thermal suit tighter around his body as he checked the weather monitoring equipment outside the research outpost. The moon's surface was a brutal place, with temperatures that could kill an unprotected human in minutes. He had been working at this remote station for 8 months now, studying the unique geological formations and extreme weather patterns. Life here was lonely, but peaceful. Just him and 5 other researchers doing their work far from the crowded colonies of human space. Taman finished his readings and turned to head back inside. That was when he saw something in the snow. At first, he thought it was just another ice formation, but something about the shape made him stop. He squinted through his helmet visor and took a few steps closer. His heart nearly stopped. It was a body. Taman ran forward, his boots crunching through the deep snow. As he got closer, he could see it was definitely a living being, not human. The figure was curled into a ball, partially buried in the snow. Blue-tinted skin showed through torn fabric that looked like it had once been some kind of uniform. Strange glowing patterns flickered weakly across the exposed skin. "This is Taman," he said into his radio, his voice urgent. "I need immediate assistance at the North Equipment Station. I found someone, not human, still alive, but barely." "Say that again?" Jiwoo's voice crackled back. She was the security officer, always on alert. "Did you say not human?" "Yes, not human, alien. Female, I think. Dying from exposure. I'm bringing her in." "Wait. You can't just bring an unknown alien into the outpost. We have protocols. Quarantine procedures." Taman was already scooping the frozen figure into his arms. She was surprisingly light. "She'll be dead in 10 minutes if I leave her out here. I'm bringing her in. Prepare the medical bay." He heard Jiwoo cursing over the radio, but he didn't care. Whatever this person was, wherever she came from, she didn't deserve to freeze to death while they debated safety procedures. The walk back to the outpost felt endless. The alien girl didn't move in his arms. Her breathing was so shallow he could barely detect it. The glowing patterns on her skin had nearly faded to nothing. The airlock doors finally opened. Heon, the communications specialist, was waiting with a medical stretcher. Her eyes went wide when she saw what Taman was carrying. "Oh my God," Heon whispered. "She's real. An actual alien. Help me get her to medical, now." They rushed through the corridors. Jiwoo met them at the medical bay door, her hand resting on her sidearm. She looked tense and unhappy. "I'm noting my objection to this," Jiwoo said firmly. "We don't know what diseases she might carry. We don't know if she's dangerous." "Noted," Taman replied, carefully placing the alien on the medical bed. "Now either help or get out of the way." The medical bay's automated systems sprang to life, scanning the alien girl. Taman stripped away the tattered remains of her clothing and wrapped her in thermal blankets. Her skin was a pale blue color, darker than human skin, but not dramatically so. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, a humanoid face. The major difference was the bioluminescent patterns that traced along her skin like living tattoos. "Body temperature critically low," the medical computer announced. "Unknown species. DNA structure compatible with standard medical protocols. Initiating warming sequence." Hyun stood at the foot of the bed, staring. "Where do you think she came from?" "No idea," Taman said, adjusting the warming blankets. "There's no record of any alien species in this system. No ships detected. Nothing." "Maybe a crash?" Hyun suggested. "We should scan the surface for wreckage." The alien girl suddenly gasped, and her eyes flew open. They were large and dark, with no visible white around the iris. Her whole body went rigid with panic. "It's okay," Taman said softly, holding up his hands. "You're safe. We're not going to hurt you." The girl tried to sit up, but was too weak. She looked around frantically at the three humans surrounding her bed. Her mouth opened and sounds came out, but they weren't any language Taemin recognized. The words were musical, almost like singing, but filled with fear. "We can't understand you," Hyun said gently, "but you're safe here. You're inside. Warm." The alien girl kept speaking, her voice growing more desperate. She tried to get out of the bed, nearly falling. Taemin caught her and eased her back down. Then she did something that shocked all three of them. She pressed her hands together and bowed her head low, a gesture that looked almost like begging. More words poured out, and this time there were tears streaming down her face. "What is she saying?" Jiwoo asked quietly. The alien girl pointed to herself, then made a gesture like she was cooking or preparing food. She pointed to her stomach, then made a cradling motion like holding a baby. She kept repeating the same gestures over and over, her expression growing more desperate each time. "I think," Taemin said slowly, horrified realization dawning on him. "I think she's trying to tell us she can be useful, that she can cook and have children." "What?" Hyun's face went pale. "Why would she think we want that from her?" The alien girl must have sensed their confusion. She prostrated herself on the medical bed, her whole body trembling. More words flowed out in her musical language, but the emotion was unmistakable. She was begging, pleading. "Please don't cast me out," Jiwoo translated softly, though she couldn't possibly know the words. "That's what she's trying to say, isn't it? She's afraid we'll throw her back outside." Taemin felt sick to his stomach. What kind of life had this girl lived, where her first response to being rescued was to offer herself as a servant and a breeder? What horrors had she experienced? He knelt down beside the bed so he was at her eye level. "Listen to me," he said firmly, knowing she couldn't understand, but hoping his tone would convey meaning. "You don't have to do anything. You don't have to earn your place here. You're safe. Nobody is going to hurt you or cast you out." The alien girl stared at him with those large, dark eyes. She looked confused, as if what he was saying didn't make any sense to her world view. Hyun touched Taemin's shoulder. "We need Somin. She's our linguist. If anyone can figure out how to communicate with her, it's Somin." "I'll get her," Jiwoo said, already heading for the door. She paused and looked back at the alien girl, her expression softening slightly. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you brought her in. Nobody deserves to die alone in the cold." As Jiwoo left, Taemin pulled a chair up beside the bed. The alien girl was still trembling, still looking at him with fearful expectation. He smiled at her, trying to look as non-threatening as possible. "We're going to figure this out," he promised. "Whatever happened to you, wherever you came from, you're with humans now, and we don't treat people the way you've clearly been treated." The girl tilted her head slightly, studying his face. The bioluminescent patterns on her skin began to glow a little brighter as her body temperature stabilized. They were beautiful, tracing elegant lines across her shoulders and arms. Outside the medical bay, the storm continued to rage across Hanil 4's frozen surface. But inside, in the warmth and light of the human outpost, a girl from another world had just taken her first steps toward understanding that not all advanced species were monsters. She didn't know it yet, but her desperate plea for acceptance would change everything. Not just for her, but for humanity's place in a galaxy much darker and more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Somin arrived at the medical bay within minutes, carrying her translation equipment and looking excited despite the late hour. She was the outpost's linguist and cultural anthropologist, always eager for new puzzles to solve, but nothing in her career had prepared her for this. "An actual alien," Somin breathed, setting up her equipment around the medical bed. "A real, living alien. Do you know what this means?" "It means we need to figure out how to talk to her," Taemin said. "She's terrified. She thinks we're going to hurt her or throw her out." The alien girl watched Soman with wary eyes as the linguist activated various recording devices and the outpost's translation AI. Soman spoke slowly and clearly, introducing herself and explaining what she was doing, even though the girl couldn't understand. "We'll start with basic concepts," Somin explained. "The AI will analyze her speech patterns, look for grammatical structures, try to find cognates or similar concepts. It won't be perfect, but we might get something." The alien girl remained silent, curled up under the thermal blankets. Her bioluminescent patterns had stabilized into a steady, soft glow. "We need her to speak," Hyun said. "Can we encourage her somehow?" Taemin thought for a moment, then picked up a cup of water. He pointed to it and said clearly, "Water." He took a sip and offered it to the alien girl. She hesitated, then reached out with trembling hands and accepted the cup. She sniffed it cautiously before taking a small sip. Her eyes widened slightly, and she drank more eagerly. "Water," Taemin repeated, pointing to the cup. The alien girl looked at him and made a sound that was somewhere between singing and speaking. "Velsha," she said softly. Soman's equipment lit up, recording and analyzing. "Good, that's good. Keep going." They spent the next hour going through basic objects and concepts: food, bed, light, door. Each time, the alien girl would provide a word in her language, and the AI would work to build a framework for translation. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. The alien girl's language was tonal and complex, but the AI was learning. After 2 hours, they had a rudimentary translation matrix that could handle simple concepts. Soman typed into her console, and the speakers played a synthesized version of the alien language. "What is your name?" The alien girl's eyes went wide with surprise. She responded quickly, excitedly. The translation came through choppy and broken. "Name is Nari." "You speak? You speak Velthri?" "A little," Soman said, using the AI to translate her words. "We are learning. Where do you come from?" Nari's expression changed immediately. Fear flooded back into her face. She spoke rapidly, and the translation struggled to keep up. "Home world. Destroyed. No, not destroyed. Taken. The Kreth came. They took everything. Took us. Made us property." The room went silent. Taemin felt his stomach turn. "Property? You were enslaved?" Nari nodded, understanding the word even through the imperfect translation. She spoke more, and this time the AI did better with the translation. "The Kreth Dominion conquers worlds. They take useful species, make them serve. Velthri females are valued. We can cook their food. We can bear young. They take us from our families, put us on ships, send us across their empire." Hyun had tears in her eyes. "How long were you enslaved?" 5 cycles, Nari said. The translation AI helpfully converted this to roughly 4 Earth years. "I was taken when I was 16 seasons old, trained to serve, taught to obey. If we resist, they hurt us. If we fail in duties, they hurt us. If we please them, they hurt us less." Jiwoo had entered the room at some point during the conversation. She stood by the door, her face hard with anger. "How did you escape?" Nari's bioluminescent patterns flickered as she remembered. "Transport ship, taking us to new masters. Something happened. Explosion. Ship crashed on this frozen moon. I survived. Others did not. I walked for many days, so cold. Thought I would die. Then he found me." She gestured to Taemin. "You thought we were like the Kreth," Taemin said softly. "That's why you offered to cook and bear children. You thought that was the only way we'd let you stay." "Is it not?" Nari asked, genuinely confused. "What else would you want from me? I am female. I am weak. I have no weapons. I have no skills except service. If I cannot serve, why would you keep me alive?" The question hung in the air. The humans looked at each other, struggling to find words. Soman spoke first. Nari, humans don't work that way. Every person has value just for being a person. You don't have to earn your right to live. You have it because you're alive and aware and capable of feeling and thinking. The translation AI struggled with these concepts. Nari listened, but her expression showed she didn't really understand. Among humans, Taman tried to explain, we believe in something called individual rights. Every person gets to make choices about their own life. Nobody owns you. You're not property. You're a person. But you are stronger, Nari said. You have this place. You have warmth and food. I have nothing. Strength dominates weakness. That is how all species survive. Not all species, Hyan said firmly. Humans decided a long time ago that strength doesn't give you the right to dominate others. We have rules against that. Laws. Anyone who tries to own another person is punished. Nari looked skeptical. Even if the person is weak? Even if the person is female? Especially then, Jiwoo said, speaking up from her position by the door. In human society, females have the same rights as males. Same opportunities, same protections under law. This seemed to shock Nari more than anything else they'd said. Females give orders to males? Sometimes, Somin said. Our commander Daewon is male, but I give him advice and he listens. Jiwoo here is female and she's our security chief. If there's danger, even Daewon follows her orders. Nari stared at Jiwoo with something like awe. You fight? You protect the males? I protect everyone, Jiwoo corrected. That's my job. Male, female, doesn't matter. Everyone deserves protection. Nari was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. Her bioluminescent patterns shifted through different colors, perhaps reflecting her emotional state. I don't understand, she finally said. If females have no masters, who tells them what to do? Who decides their purpose? They decide for themselves, Taman said. You decide what you want to do with your life. Nobody else. But I am broken, Nari whispered. The Kreth broke me, trained me. I only know how to serve. If I don't serve, what am I? Jan moved closer and gently took Nari's hand. You're someone who survived something terrible. You're someone who was strong enough to escape. You're someone who walked for days through freezing cold because you wanted to live. That's not broken, Nari. That's incredibly strong. Tears started flowing down Nari's face again. You don't want me to cook for you? To bear your young? No, Taman said firmly. We want you to heal. We want you to rest. We want you to be safe, that's all. And when I am healed, then you send me away? Then you decide what you want to do, Soman said. If you want to stay here, you can stay. If you want to go somewhere else, we'll help you get there. But it will be your choice, always your choice. Nari shook her head in disbelief. This is not how species behave. Strong species dominate. Weak species serve. That is the law of the galaxy. Then the galaxy's laws are wrong, Jiwoo said flatly, and we're not going to follow them. But the Kreth are powerful, Nari said, fear creeping back into her voice. They have vast fleets, millions of soldiers. If they know you defy them, they will come. They will punish you. Let them come, Jiwoo replied. We're humans. We don't abandon people who need help just because it's convenient or safe. Nari looked around at the 4 humans surrounding her bed. She seemed to be searching their faces for deception, for cruelty, for the familiar signs of masters who would hurt her, but she found none of those things. I don't understand you, she said quietly. You make no sense, but I am very tired. May I sleep? Of course, Taman said, adjusting her blankets. Sleep as long as you need. When you wake up, we'll still be here, and you'll still be safe. Nari's eyes drifted closed. Within moments, her breathing became slow and steady. The humans quietly gathered their equipment and moved toward the door. In the hallway, Soman turned to the others. She's been completely conditioned to think of herself as property. Deprogramming that is going to take time. We have time, Taemin said. She's not going anywhere, and neither are we. What about reporting this to Terran Command? Jiwoo asked. We're supposed to report any first contact situations immediately. We will, Taemin said, but let's give her a few days to stabilize first. The last thing she needs is a parade of officials treating her like a curiosity. The others nodded in agreement. As they dispersed to their quarters, each of them was thinking about the same thing. Somewhere out there in the galaxy, there was an empire that enslaved entire species. An empire that broke people like Nari and turned them into property. And now humanity knew about it. That knowledge would change everything. 3 days passed before Commander Daewon returned to the outpost from his supply run to the orbital station. He was a tall man with graying hair and a calm demeanor that came from 20 years of managing remote research facilities. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. Then Taemin briefed him on Nari. An alien refugee, Daewon said slowly, sitting in his office with Taemin and Jiwoo. From a species enslaved by something called the Kreth Dominion. And she's been here for 3 days without me knowing. We were going to tell you as soon as you got back, Taemin said. We wanted to stabilize her first. Show me. They walked to the medical bay, where Nari was sitting up in bed. Somin was with her, using the improved translation system to teach Nari basic human concepts. Nari's health had improved dramatically with rest and proper nutrition. Her bioluminescent patterns were now bright and vibrant. When Daewon entered, Nari immediately shrank back against the wall. Her patterns dimmed. It's okay, Soman said quickly. This is Daewon. He's our leader. He's kind. Nari studied Daewon with frightened eyes. He is large, strong. Is he the master here? He's the commander, Soman explained. But we don't have masters. Daewon approached slowly and sat in a chair across from the bed. Hello, Nari. Welcome to our outpost. I'm glad you're feeling better. The translation AI conveyed his words. Nari looked confused by his gentle tone. You are not angry that I am here? Why would I be angry? Daewon asked. I am using resources, food, space, medical supplies. I cannot pay. I have nothing to offer. You don't need to offer anything, Daewon said patiently. Helping people who need help is what humans do. It's not a transaction. Nari still looked skeptical, but she nodded slowly. Over the next hour, Daewon listened as Nari recounted her story again in more detail. His expression grew darker with each revelation about the Kreth Dominion's practices. When she finished, Daewon was quiet for a long time. I need to report this to Terran Command, he finally said. They need to know about the Kreth. But Nari, I promise you we will not let them take you. You're under human protection now. What does that mean? Nari asked. It means no one gets to hurt you anymore, Daewon said firmly. Not while we draw breath. Later that day, after Daewon had sent his encrypted report to Terran Command, he called a meeting of the entire outpost staff. 6 humans gathered in the common room. This changes our mission, Daewon said. We're no longer just a research outpost. We're harboring a refugee from a hostile alien empire. Command will want to know more, and eventually they might want to move Nari to a more secure facility. No, Taemin said immediately. She's just starting to trust us. Moving her would traumatize her all over again. I agree, Daewon said. I've recommended she stay here for now. But we all need to understand the situation we're in. If the Kreth come looking for her, we could be in danger. Jiwoo spoke up. Then we prepare. We're a research station, but we have some defensive capabilities. I can set up better perimeter monitoring. Do it, Daewon agreed. Everyone be on alert, and be patient with Nari. She's been through hell. Over the following days, Nari began to explore the outpost. At first, she would only leave the medical bay when accompanied by Somin or Hyun, but gradually, she became more confident. The humans quickly learned that Nari's conditioning ran deep. She would try to clean up after them constantly, looking distressed when they told her to stop. She would hover near the kitchen during mealtimes, clearly wanting to help but afraid to presume. One morning, Hyun found Nari scrubbing the common room floor on her hands and knees. "Nari, you don't have to do that," Hyun said gently. "We have cleaning robots for that." "But I must be useful," Nari insisted. "If I am not useful, you will send me away." "That's not how it works. Come on, get up. Let's get some breakfast." In the kitchen, they found Taemin and Minho, the outpost's pilot and engineer. The two men were cooking eggs and toast, chatting casually. Nari stopped in the doorway, staring in shock. "The males are cooking?" "Yeah," Minho said cheerfully. "It's my turn today. Tomorrow it's Jiwoo's turn." "Females and males take turns?" Nari asked, clearly struggling with this concept. "Sure," Taemin said. "Everyone cooks sometimes, everyone cleans sometimes. We rotate chores." "But males are stronger," Nari said. "Should they not do the harder work? Should females not do the service work?" "We divide work based on who's good at what and who's available," Hyun explained. "Not based on gender. Minho is our best pilot. Jiwoo is our best fighter. I'm best at communications. It doesn't matter if we're male or female." Nari sat down slowly at the table. "This is very strange to me." "What was it like on your world?" Hyun asked. "Before the Kreth came?" Nari's bioluminescent patterns dimmed slightly. "Males did the hunting, the building, the fighting. Females did the homework, the child rearing, the food preparation. It was the natural order." "Did females want to do other things?" Taemin asked. "Want?" Nari looked confused. "It was not about wanting. It was about what is natural, what has always been." "But what if a female wanted to hunt?" Minho pressed. "What if a male wanted to cook?" "Then they would be strange," Nari said simply. "Not fitting their nature." "Humans used to think that way too," Hyun said. "A long time ago. But we learned that people should get to choose what they do with their lives, regardless of whether they're male or female." Nari absorbed this information silently as she ate the breakfast Minho had prepared. She watched Jiwoo enter the room and pour herself coffee, watched as the female security officer sat down and started discussing defensive systems with Daewon. "Your females are very bold," Nari observed. "Our females are just people," Jiwoo replied, overhearing. "Same as males." Later that day, disaster struck. Nari was in the equipment room, trying once again to make herself useful by organizing supplies. She reached for a box on a high shelf and accidentally knocked over an expensive atmospheric sensor. It crashed to the floor and shattered. Nari stared at the broken equipment in horror. Then she did something that broke the hearts of every human in the outpost. She dropped to her knees, pressed her forehead to the floor, and began to wail. "Please!" she cried in her own language, the translation AI broadcasting her words. "Please don't hurt me. I will work harder. I will do better. Please don't beat me. Please don't starve me. Please don't put me in the cold chamber. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Taemin, who had been nearby, rushed over. "Nari, stop! Nobody's going to hurt you." But Nari couldn't hear him. She was lost in panic, her body shaking with sobs. "I'll do anything. Anything you want. Just please don't hurt me. It was an accident, please." Taemin knelt down beside her, careful not to touch her without permission. "Nari, look at me, look at me." Slowly, Nari raised her tear-stained face. "Nobody is going to hurt you," Taemin said firmly. "It was an accident. Accidents happen. The equipment can be replaced. You cannot. You are more important than any machine." "But I broke it," Nari whispered. "I destroyed property. I must be punished. No, Taemin said. You must be forgiven, because that's what humans do when someone makes a mistake. We forgive them. Nari stared at him, unable to comprehend. Why? Because you're a person, not a machine. People make mistakes. It's part of learning and growing. If we punished everyone for every mistake, we'd all be miserable. Other staff members had gathered, drawn by Nari's cries. They all wore expressions of sympathy and anger at what had been done to this gentle person to make her so afraid. Soman stepped forward with a blanket and wrapped it around Nari's shoulders. Come on, let's get you some tea. You've had a shock. As they led Nari away, she kept looking back at the broken sensor, waiting for punishment that would never come. It took hours for her to calm down, to accept that she really wasn't going to be hurt. That evening, Daewon found Taemin in the observation room, looking out at the frozen landscape. She's been tortured, Taemin said quietly, systematically broken and reconditioned. The Kreth didn't just enslave her people, they destroyed who they were. I know, Daewon replied. My report to command included everything. They're sending a trauma specialist, but it will take weeks for anyone to arrive. She needs to know she's safe, Taemin said. Really safe. Not just physically, but psychologically. Then we show her, Daewon said. Every day, in every interaction, we show her what humanity stands for. We show her that not all powerful beings are cruel. In her quarters, Nari lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind was reeling from the day's events. She had broken valuable equipment and no one had hurt her. Males and females worked together as equals. People chose their own purposes in life. Everything she had been taught, everything she had known, was being challenged. The Kreth had told her that domination was natural, that the strong ruled the weak, because that was the way of the universe. But these humans operated on completely different principles, and somehow they still survived. They still thrived. They still built and created and lived. Maybe, Nari thought, the Kreth had lied about more than she realized. Maybe there was another way to live. It was a terrifying thought, but also strangely hopeful. For the first time in 4 years, Nari allowed herself to imagine a future that didn't involve servitude. She didn't know what that future might look like, but these strange, kind humans were giving her the space to find out. 2 weeks passed. Daewon made a decision that he knew might end his career, but felt was the right thing to do. He delayed sending exact coordinates of the crashed Kreth ship and minimized details about Nari's presence in his reports to Terran Command. He claimed they needed more time to establish communication and assess the situation. It was a lie, and he knew it. But it bought Nari time to heal. During those 2 weeks, something remarkable happened. Nari began to change. It started small. One morning, when Hyeon asked what she wanted for breakfast, Nari actually expressed a preference instead of saying she would eat whatever was given to her. She chose fruit over protein bars. I like the sweet taste, she admitted shyly. Is that allowed? Of course it's allowed, Hyeon laughed. You're allowed to like things, Nari. The concept of personal preference was still new to her. For years, the Kreth had punished any display of individual wants or desires. Slaves who developed preferences were seen as getting above their station. But the humans encouraged it. They asked her questions constantly. What did she like? What made her comfortable? What did she enjoy? At first, Nari didn't know how to answer. She had spent so long suppressing her own desires that she'd forgotten she had them. Soman helped her rediscover them. The linguist introduced Nari to human entertainment, starting with music. They sat in the common room while Soman played different genres from Earth's vast musical history. Classical music made Nari's bioluminescent patterns pulse slowly. Rock music made them flicker rapidly. But when Somin played traditional Korean folk songs, something magical happened. Nari began to sing along, her voice creating harmonies that shouldn't have been possible with the human melodies. "That's beautiful," Somin breathed. "How are you doing that?" "Vel3 have 2 vocal cords," Nari explained. "We can make 2 sounds at once. We used to sing in the evenings before the Kreth came, but they forbade it. They said our music was too loud." "Sing for us," Hyan urged, having entered the room. "Please." Nari hesitated, then began to sing a song from her homeworld. The melody was haunting and complex, filled with harmonies that intertwined with each other. Her bioluminescent patterns danced in time with the music. By the time she finished, tears were streaming down her face. "I had forgotten," she whispered. "I had forgotten what it felt like to sing just because I wanted to." "You can sing whenever you want here," Somin promised. "Nobody will stop you." The next breakthrough came in the kitchen. Nari had been watching the humans cook for weeks, clearly wanting to help but afraid to insert herself. One evening, Minho was struggling to prepare a meal, cursing at a pot of rice that had somehow burned. "May I help?" Nari asked quietly. "Please," Minho said gratefully. "I'm a terrible cook." Nari approached the stove cautiously, as if expecting someone to tell her no. When no one did, she began to work. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency, salvaging what could be saved and starting fresh with what couldn't. Within 30 minutes, she had prepared a meal that made everyone's mouths water. The aroma filled the outpost. "Nari, this is incredible," Taman said, tasting the dish. "What is it?" "It's similar to a Vel3 dish," Nari explained. "But I adapted it using your ingredients. The spices are different, but the technique is the same." "You're an artist," Daewon declared. "This is better than anything we've had in months." Nari's patterns glowed brightly with something that looked like pride. "You really like it?" "We love it," Hyan assured her. "Then I would like to cook again," Nari said carefully. "Not because I must, but because I enjoy it. Cooking was always my favorite task, even when the Kreth forced me to do it. There's something peaceful about combining ingredients and creating something new." "Then you should cook whenever you want to," Somin said. "But only when you want to. This is a gift you're sharing, not a duty you owe." Understanding that distinction seemed to unlock something in Nari. Over the following days, she began to explore other aspects of the outpost. She watched Minho maintain the shuttles and asked questions about how they worked. She observed Jiwoo running combat drills and was fascinated by the idea that humans train to defend themselves even when not in immediate danger. "We prepare for possibilities," Jiwoo explained. "Being strong isn't about dominating others. It's about being able to protect those who need protection." "The Kreth say strength must dominate or it is wasted," Nari said. "The Kreth are wrong about a lot of things," Jiwoo replied. But perhaps the biggest revelation came when Nari stumbled upon the outpost's library database. She discovered that humans documented everything, their entire history, including the darkest parts. Late one night, Taman found her in the library room reading about human slavery with tears streaming down her face. "You did this too," she said, gesturing at the screen. "Humans enslaved each other?" "Yes," Taman admitted, sitting beside her. "We did, for thousands of years." "But you stopped," Nari said. "Why?" "Because we realized it was wrong. Because enslaved people fought for their freedom. Because people who weren't enslaved decided to stand with them and fight too. It took a long time and a lot of struggle, but we changed." "The Kreth have been enslaving species for hundreds of generations," Nari said. "They believe it is their right. That superior species should dominate inferior ones." "There are no inferior species," Taman said firmly. "There are only different species, and difference doesn't justify domination." Nari looked at him with her large dark eyes. "You believe all thinking beings have value?" "Yes. Even if they are weak? Even if they have nothing to offer?" "Even then." A being's value doesn't come from what they can do for others. It comes from the fact that they exist, that they think and feel and dream. I want to believe that, Nari said softly. But I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid that if I believe it and then I lose it, the pain will be worse than anything the Kreth did to me. Taman understood. She was afraid to hope. Hope, after all, could be crushed. I can't promise that nothing bad will ever happen, Taman said, but I can promise that as long as we're here, we'll fight for you. We'll stand with you. You're not alone anymore. Nari nodded slowly, then returned her attention to the screen. She spent the rest of the night reading about human history, about their struggles and triumphs, their cruelties and their kindnesses. The next morning she approached Daewon in his office. I want to learn to read and write human languages, she said. Salmon says the translation AI will always have limitations. I want to understand your words directly. That's a big undertaking, Daewon said. It will take time. I have time, Nari replied. And I want to understand you better. Your people, your ideas. You are so different from everything I was taught. We'd be happy to teach you, Daewon said warmly. Salmon will be thrilled. Nari hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering her. Why are you being so kind to me? You gain nothing from it. I cannot pay you. I cannot serve you in any meaningful way. By any logical measure, keeping me here is a waste of resources. Daewon smiled sadly. Nari, kindness isn't a transaction. It's not about gain or payment. It's about recognizing that you're a person who deserves dignity and respect. That's not a waste. That's humanity at its best. I don't understand, Nari admitted. You will, Daewon promised. Give it time. That afternoon, the outpost's long-range sensors picked up something concerning. Debris in orbit, consistent with ship wreckage. Jiwoo analyzed it and confirmed it was Kreth in origin. It's from the transport ship Nari escaped from, Jiwoo reported to Daewon. It's been up there the whole time, slowly decaying in orbit. Can other ships detect it? Daewon asked. If they're scanning this system, yes. It would show up as anomalous debris. Then we need to assume the Kreth might come looking, Daewon said. Jiwoo, expedite those defensive upgrades. Everyone else continue as normal. Let's not alarm Nari unless we have to. But Nari had been learning to read human body language, and she noticed the increased tension. That evening, she approached Taman in the observation room. Something is wrong, she said. Everyone is worried. Is it because of me? Taman considered lying, then decided she deserved the truth. We found debris from the Kreth ship in orbit. If other Kreth ships come to this system, they might detect it and come to investigate. Nari's patterns dimmed to almost nothing. They'll come for me. They'll want their property back. You're not property, Taman said sharply, and we won't let them take you. You don't understand what you're saying, Nari said desperately. The Kreth are powerful. They have weapons that can destroy worlds. You cannot fight them. Maybe not, Taman agreed. But we can try, and sometimes trying is enough. Nari looked out at the frozen landscape of Hanul 4. I should leave. I should go back out into the cold. If I'm gone, they won't bother you. Absolutely not, Taman said firmly. You're part of this outpost now, part of our crew. We don't abandon our people. I've been here 2 weeks. I'm not your people. Yes, you are. You became our people the moment I carried you in from the snow, and humans protect their own. Nari wanted to argue, but she could see the determination in Taman's eyes. These humans would fight for her, even though it made no logical sense. Even though she couldn't offer them anything in return. Maybe that was the fundamental difference between humans and the Kreth. The Kreth calculated value and worth. They measured every being against their usefulness. But humans seemed to believe that every thinking being had inherent value that couldn't be measured or calculated. It was a radical idea, one that went against everything Nari had been taught. And yet these humans survived. They prospered, they built beautiful things and explored the stars. Maybe, Nari thought, there was strength in kindness. Maybe treating beings with dignity wasn't weakness, but wisdom. She didn't fully understand it yet, but she was beginning to believe it might be true. The alarm woke everyone at 3 in the morning. Jiwoo's voice crackled over the intercom, tense and urgent. "All personnel to the command center immediately. We have incoming." Taemin threw on his clothes and ran. In the command center, the entire crew was already gathering around the main display. What they saw made his blood run cold. A ship hung in orbit above Hanel 4. It was sleek and predatory-looking, covered in what appeared to be weapons arrays. The design was completely alien, nothing like human vessels. "Kreth?" Daewon asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes," Jiwoo confirmed. "Scout class based on what our sensors can tell. They appeared 30 minutes ago and have been scanning the surface. They've definitely detected the crash site." "Have they detected us?" "Not yet. We're running minimal power to reduce our signature. But if they do a detailed scan, they'll find us." "Where's Nari?" Taemin asked. "Still in her quarters," Hyun said. "Should we wake her?" "Not yet," Daewon decided. "Let's see what they want first." As if in answer, the communications console lit up. An incoming transmission. "They're hailing us," Hyun said, her hands hovering over the controls. "Audio only." "Put it through," Daewon ordered. A voice filled the command center, speaking in a harsh, guttural language. The translation AI kicked in after a moment. "Attention human facility. This is Kreth Dominion Patrol Vessel Hunter of Shadows. We detected debris from one of our transport ships in this system. We are conducting a recovery operation. You will allow us to inspect your facility for any survivors or salvage." The crew exchanged glances. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. Daewon activated the comm. "This is Commander Daewon of Terran Research Outpost Hanel 4. We're a civilian scientific facility. We have no authority to allow military inspections." "Your authority is irrelevant," the Kreth voice replied. "Under Dominion law, any species harboring escaped Dominion property is subject to penalties including seizure of assets and imprisonment of personnel. Prepare for inspection." "They called her property," Minho said quietly, his voice shaking with anger. At that moment, Nari appeared in the doorway of the command center. She had clearly heard the transmission. Her face was pale and her bioluminescent patterns had gone dark. "That's a Kreth ship," she whispered. "They've found me." "Nari, go back to your quarters," Daewon said gently. "No," Nari said, stepping forward. "I won't let you suffer because of me. I'll go to them. I'll tell them you didn't know what I was, that I deceived you." "Absolutely not," Taemin said firmly, moving to stand beside her. "We're not handing you over." "You don't understand," Nari said desperately. "If you resist, they'll destroy this facility. They'll kill all of you. The Kreth don't accept defiance." "Then they're going to have a very bad day," Jiwoo said, checking her weapons, "because humans don't accept slavery." The Kreth transmission came again. "Your compliance is not optional. We are dispatching a landing party. They will arrive in 30 minutes. Any resistance will be met with lethal force." Daewon closed the channel and turned to his crew. "Options?" "We can't fight them in space," Minho said. "That ship has enough firepower to vaporize this outpost from orbit." "But they won't do that," Jiwoo said thoughtfully. "Not if they think there might be salvage or survivors down here. They want to inspect, which means they're sending troops to the surface." "How many troops can a scout ship carry?" Daewon asked. "Based on its size, maybe 20 to 30, Jiwoo estimated. We're 6 people, not great odds." "But we know the terrain," Taemin said. "We've been here for months. They're strangers." "We also have the advantage of defending," Hyun added. "They have to come to us." Nari looked around at the humans in disbelief. "You're actually going to fight? For me?" "For you," And for the principal, Daewon said. If we let the Kreth take people from our facilities, then we're complicit in slavery. That's not who humans are. But you'll die, Nari said, tears streaming down her face. Maybe, Daewon admitted, but we'll die standing up for what's right. That's worth something. I have a plan, Minho said suddenly. It's risky, but it might work. The Kreth ship is in a stable orbit. If I can get to our shuttle, I can use the mining charges we have for geological surveys. Get them close enough to their ship. You're talking about attacking a military vessel with mining explosives, Jiwoo said. That's insane. Got a better idea? Minho challenged. Jiwoo thought for a moment, then grinned. Actually, no. It's stupid enough that they might not see it coming. I'm in. Wait, Nari said. I can help. I know Kreth ships. I spent 4 years on them. I know their layouts, their weak points. If you're really going to do this, let me help you. Taemin looked at her. Nari, you don't have to fight your former captors. Yes, I do, Nari said firmly. You taught me that I have value, that I deserve dignity. Now I need to fight for those things. I need to show the Kreth that I'm not property. I'm a person. Daewon nodded slowly. All right. We have 30 minutes. Jiwoo, prepare defensive positions around the outpost. Minho, prep the shuttle and load the mining charges. Nari, tell Minho everything you know about Kreth ship vulnerabilities. Taemin, Somin, Hyon, you're with me. We're going to set up surprises for their landing party. The crew scattered, moving with purpose. Nari followed Minho to the shuttle bay, her mind racing. Kreth ships have 3 main power conduits, she explained as Minho loaded explosives. They run along the exterior hull. If you can damage even one, their shields will fail in that section. Can you identify them visually? Minho asked. Yes, I can come with you. Nari, this is dangerous. I know, she said, but I need to do this. I need to face them. Minho studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right, but you do exactly what I say. When I say it. Deal? Deal. Meanwhile, Taemin and the others were setting up defensive positions. The outpost wasn't designed for combat, but they had some advantages. They could seal bulkheads, creating choke points. They could vent atmosphere in certain sections. They had some weapons, mostly designed for dealing with dangerous wildlife, but they would have to do. We need to send a distress signal, Hyon said. Let Terran Command know what's happening. Do it, Daewon said. But don't expect help to arrive in time. The nearest military vessel is weeks away. Hyon sent the signal, marking it as highest priority. Then she picked up a rifle and checked its charge. In the shuttle bay, Minho was running final checks. Nari sat in the co-pilot seat, looking nervous but determined. You ready for this? Minho asked. No, Nari admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. That's brave, Minho said. True courage isn't being unafraid. It's being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. Is that a human saying? It's the truth, Minho replied. Hang on. This is going to be rough. The shuttle launched just as the Kreth landing craft appeared on sensors. There were 2 of them, heading for the outpost. They're taking the bait, Jiwoo reported from the command center. They think we're just a scared research station. They're not expecting resistance. Minho piloted the shuttle low and fast, using the moon's frozen canyons for cover. The Kreth ship in orbit tracked them but didn't fire. They think we're running, Minho said with a grim smile. Let them think that. He brought the shuttle around in a wide arc, coming up on the Kreth ship's blind spot. Nari leaned forward, studying the hull. There, she said, pointing. That's a power conduit. And there's another one. If you can get charges on both... On it, Minho said, bringing them in close. The shuttle shuddered as he matched velocity with the orbiting ship. Deploying charges, now! The mining charges attached to the hull, their magnetic clamps locking on. Minho pulled away hard, putting distance between them and the Kreth vessel, detonating in 3, 2, 1. The explosions blossomed along the Kreth ship's hull. Not huge, not enough to destroy it, but enough to cause significant damage. Alerts would be screaming on their bridge right now. Their shields would be failing. "Yes!" Minho shouted. "Nari, you're a genius!" But there was no time to celebrate. The Kreth landing craft had reached the outpost, and the real battle was about to begin. On the ground, Daewon watched the alien troops disembark on their external cameras. They were tall and armored, carrying weapons that looked far more advanced than anything the humans had. "Here they come," Jiwoo said calmly. "Remember the plan. Let them get inside, then spring the traps." The Kreth soldiers approached the main airlock confidently, clearly expecting no real resistance. The airlock opened at their command, overridden by their superior technology. They stepped inside, spreading out in a standard military formation. Then Jiwoo sealed the bulkheads behind them and vented the atmosphere from the section. The Kreth soldiers scrambled for their helmets, but not before several had already lost consciousness. The survivors fell back to defensible positions. "First blood to us," Jiwoo said. "But now they know we're not going down easy." The Kreth commander's voice came over the general comm, speaking in that harsh language. "You are making a terrible mistake, humans. Surrender the escaped property, and we will leave peacefully. Continue to resist, and we will take you all as slaves." Daewon activated the comm. "Her name is Nari. She's a person, not property, and you can go straight to hell." In orbit, the damaged Kreth ship was trying to get its systems back online, but Minho was already lining up for another pass. "Think they've learned their lesson yet?" he asked Nari. Nari looked at the ship that represented 4 years of her torment. She thought about all the pain, all the degradation, all the fear. "No," she said, "but they're about to." The battle for HFY 4 had begun, and the Kreth were learning something they should have known already. Humans don't abandon their own, and anyone who asks them for help becomes one of their own. The Kreth soldiers regrouped quickly after the atmosphere venting. They were professional warriors, trained to handle unexpected situations, but they had never fought humans before, and that was their first mistake. Jiwoo watched them on the security cameras, analyzing their movements. "They're moving in standard formation, 2-point men support in the rear. They expect us to fight like any other species they've conquered." "Then let's show them something new," Taemin said. He was positioned in a maintenance shaft above the corridor the Kreth were advancing through. Sumin was with him, both armed with makeshift weapons. The Kreth soldiers moved cautiously through the outpost. Their commander was barking orders in their harsh language. The translation AI picked up fragments. "Find the property. Eliminate anyone who resists. Take the rest alive for questioning." "They still think Nari is just property," Hyun said from her position in the command center. "They don't understand what they're dealing with." The lead Kreth soldier reached an intersection. He signaled his team to spread out. That was when Taemin dropped from the ceiling shaft, landing directly on the soldier's back. They both crashed to the ground. The other Kreth turned their weapons, but Somin had already triggered the emergency foam system. The fire suppression foam exploded from the walls, covering the soldiers in thick, expanding gel that hardened rapidly. 2 more Kreth were trapped before they could react. The others fell back, firing their weapons blindly. The shots burned through the foam but missed the humans, who had already retreated through hidden passages. 3 down, about 15 to go, Jiwoo reported. "They're splitting into 2 groups." "Let them," Daewon said. "Divided forces are easier to handle." In orbit, Minho was preparing for his second attack run. The Kreth ship had gotten its shields partially back online, but they were weak in the sections Nari had identified. "There's another vulnerability," Nari said, pointing at the display. "The main sensor array. If you can damage that, they'll be flying blind." "That's a much harder target," Minho said. "We'll have to get closer." I trust you, Nari said simply. Minho looked at her, saw the determination in her eyes, and nodded. All right, hold on tight. He brought the shuttle in fast and low, threading between the damaged sections of the Kreth ship. Weapons fire followed them, but the Kreth gunners were slow to track their small, agile craft. Deploying charges, Minho said, releasing the last of their mining explosives. Now comes the hard part. The Kreth ship's defensive systems locked onto them. Warning alarms screamed in the shuttle. They've got missile lock, Nari shouted. I know! Minho threw the shuttle into a violent dive toward the moon's surface. The missiles followed, closing fast. Detonating charges! Minho triggered the explosives. They detonated against the Kreth ship's sensor array, tearing it apart in a cascade of explosions. The missiles, suddenly without guidance from their mothership, went wild. One exploded harmlessly in space. The other followed a faulty trajectory and actually hit the Kreth ship itself, adding to the damage. Yes! Minho shouted, pulling up hard to avoid crashing into the moon's surface. They're blind now! In the outpost, the battle was getting more intense. One group of Kreth soldiers had broken through to the living quarters. They were searching room by room, destroying anything in their path. Hyan was hiding in one of the rooms, her heart pounding. She could hear them outside, hear their harsh voices and the sound of doors being forced open. She clutched her weapon, a simple mining laser, and waited. The door to her room exploded inward. A Kreth soldier entered, his weapon raised. Hyan fired. The mining laser wasn't designed as a weapon, but at close range, it was devastating. The soldier's armor held, but the impact threw him backward into his companions. Hyan ran, using the confusion to escape through a service corridor. Behind her, she could hear the Kreth soldiers shouting in anger. They're adapting, Jiwoo reported. Getting smarter. We need to change tactics. Agreed, Daewon said. Time for Phase 2. Everyone fall back to the command center. We make our stand there. The crew retreated through pre-planned routes, sealing bulkheads behind them. The Kreth followed, but now they were wary. They had expected easy prey and found predators instead. The Kreth commander contacted the outpost again. Humans, you are displaying unusual resilience, but you cannot win. We have reinforcements coming. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. Daewon laughed bitterly. You still don't get it, do you? We're not fighting to win. We're fighting because it's right. There's a difference. There is no honor in futile resistance. There's honor in standing up to bullies, Daewon replied. There's honor in protecting those who can't protect themselves. If you can't understand that, then you're not as advanced as you think you are. The Kreth commander made a sound that might have been a laugh. Philosophy from primitives. Your species is new to the galaxy. Young. Naive. You believe in abstracts like rights and dignity. But the galaxy operates on power. Only power. The strong dominate. The weak serve. This is natural law. Natural law, Taemin spoke up, his voice carrying across the comm, is whatever we decide it is. Humans decided that slavery is wrong, regardless of power differences. We decided that every thinking being deserves respect. If that makes us naive, then I'll gladly be naive. Then you will die naive, the Kreth commander said. My soldiers are approaching your command center. This ends now. The crew gathered in the command center, weapons ready. They could hear the Kreth soldiers outside, setting up breaching charges on the reinforced door. When they come through, we hit them with everything, Jiwoo said. Make every shot count. Nari's voice suddenly crackled over the comm. Wait! I'm broadcasting on Kreth military frequencies. Let me try something. Nari, what are you doing? Taemin asked. From the shuttle, Nari transmitted on the Kreth command channel. She spoke in their language, her voice clear and strong. Attention, Kreth soldiers. This is Nari, property designation V7743. I am ordering you to stand down. There was a long pause. Then the Kreth commander's voice, full of contempt. "You have no authority, slave. You are property. Property does not give orders." "I am not property," Nari said firmly. "I am a person. I have worth beyond my usefulness. I have dignity, and I reject your authority over me." "Your rejection is meaningless. You will be recaptured and re-educated. Painfully." "No," Nari said. "I won't. Because these humans will fight for me. They'll die for me if necessary. Not because I'm useful to them, not because I can serve them, but because they believe I deserve to be free. Can you say the same about your empire? Would your commanders die for you? Or are you just as much property to them as I was to you?" Another pause. Nari pressed her advantage. "Look at what's happening. 6 humans. 6 against your squad of 20. Against your warship. And they're winning. Not because they're stronger, but because they're fighting for something that matters. What are you fighting for? The right to kidnap people and break them? That's what you serve?" "Enough!" the Kreth commander roared. "Breach the door. Kill them all. Except the property. She must be taken alive for execution." The breaching charges detonated. The command center door exploded inward. Kreth soldiers poured through the gap, and the humans were ready. Jiwoo had positioned compressed air canisters near the door. When they ruptured from the explosion, they created a blast of wind that threw the first soldiers off balance. The humans opened fire immediately, taking advantage of the confusion. The battle was chaos. Weapons fire filled the room. Taemin was hit in the shoulder, but kept fighting. Somin went down, stunned by a near miss. Hyun dragged her to cover. Daewon stood in the center of the room, firing methodically. "We hold this line. They don't get through." But the Kreth kept coming. They had numbers and better weapons. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed forward. Then, suddenly, an explosion rocked the entire outpost. The Kreth soldiers stopped, confusion evident even through their helmets. Minho's voice came over the comm, triumphant. "Their landing craft just went boom. Used the shuttle's engines to fry their ships. They're not leaving this moon without our help." The Kreth commander's voice was tight with anger now. "You've doomed your own people as well. Without our ships, you all die on this frozen rock." "Maybe," Daewon said, "but at least we'll die free. Can you say the same?" The Kreth commander appeared in the doorway personally, a massive figure in heavy armor. He pointed at Daewon with his weapon. "Your bravery is admirable but pointless. Even if you kill us all, more will come. The Dominion is vast. You cannot fight us all." "Watch us," Daewon replied calmly. The Kreth commander was about to fire when something unexpected happened. The outpost's long-range comm lit up with an incoming transmission, not from Terran space, from somewhere much closer. Hyun, despite her injuries, activated it. A new voice filled the room, speaking in Galactic Common. "Attention, Kreth vessel Hunter of Shadows. This is the Terran Colonial Navy destroyer Indomitable. We received a distress call from this facility. You are hereby ordered to cease all hostile actions and prepare to be boarded for treaty violation." Everyone in the command center froze. The humans looked at each other in shock. "But the nearest military ship was weeks away," Somin whispered. "They came," Taemin said, hardly believing it. "They actually came." The Kreth commander staggered back, his weapon lowering. "Impossible! You're a new species. You don't have military vessels this far out." "Surprise," Daewon said with a bloody smile. "We're full of them." The Kreth commander looked around at his soldiers, at the battered but unbroken humans, at the situation he found himself in. For the first time, uncertainty showed in his body language. "You have made enemies today," he said finally. "The Dominion will remember this." "Good," Daewon replied, "because humanity will remember too. And we're going to make sure every enslaved species in the galaxy knows what you are. Bullies, cowards who prey on the weak. And we're going to stand against you. You are primitives, idealists. The galaxy will crush you." "Maybe," Daewon said, "but we'll make them work for it. Now drop your weapons, or our ship in orbit will demonstrate what human weapons can do to yours." The Kreth commander hesitated one moment more, then gave the order. His soldiers lowered their weapons. Outside, Minho was bringing the shuttle into dock, Nari beside him. She stared at the massive human warship that had appeared in orbit, its weapons trained on the crippled Kreth vessel. "They came to help," she said softly. "Strangers, people who don't even know me. They came all this way to help." "That's what humans do," Minho said. "We help, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, because it's right." Nari felt something shift inside her. For 4 years, she had believed the Kreth worldview, that strength was everything, that the weak existed only to serve. But these humans had shown her something different. They had shown her that there was strength in compassion, power in standing up for others, victory in refusing to compromise on principles. As the shuttle docked, Nari knew that nothing would ever be the same. Not for her, not for humanity, and eventually not for the entire galaxy. The Kreth had made a terrible mistake. They had threatened someone under human protection. And now humanity knew about them, knew what they did, knew what they represented. And humans, Nari was learning, never forgot an injustice. They never stopped fighting for what was right. The Kreth thought they were strong, but they were about to learn what true strength looked like. The destroyer Indomitable sent medical teams and Marines to the outpost within the hour. Taman and the others were treated for their injuries, while Kreth soldiers were taken into custody. None of the humans had died, though several were badly wounded. Captain Hana, commander of the Indomitable, was a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes. She stood in the damaged command center, surveying the scene with an expression that mixed respect and concern. "You took on a Kreth military unit with mining equipment and determination," she said to Daewon. "That's either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." "Probably both," Daewon admitted, wincing as a medic treated his burns. "But we couldn't let them take her." Hana looked at Nari, who stood quietly beside Taman. "The alien refugee. Nari, correct?" Nari nodded nervously. "Yes, Captain, I am sorry for the trouble I caused." "You caused no trouble," Hana said firmly. "The Kreth caused trouble. You were just trying to survive." She turned back to Daewon. "We received your distress signal 8 days ago. Command authorized an emergency response. We've been pushing our engines to maximum to get here in time." 8 days? Hyan said in surprise. "But that means you left before the Kreth even showed up." "We left as soon as we learned about Nari's presence here," Hana explained. "Command decided that any refugee from hostile forces deserved our protection. They were right to worry. If we'd arrived a few hours later—" She didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew how close they'd come. Over the next few days, the situation stabilized. The Kreth prisoners were held aboard the Indomitable, while diplomats tried to figure out what to do with them. The damaged Kreth ship remained in orbit, unable to escape but monitored closely. Nari spent hours being debriefed by intelligence officers from the Indomitable. She told them everything she knew about the Kreth Dominion, the scope of their empire, the species they had enslaved, their military capabilities, their methods of control. The officers listened with growing horror and anger. "There are thousands of enslaved beings across Kreth space," one officer said. "Maybe millions. We had no idea." "Now you do," Nari said quietly. "What will you do about it?" "That's above my pay grade," the officer admitted, "but I'll make sure this information gets to the highest levels of government." Meanwhile, news of the incident was spreading through human space. The story of 6 researchers who fought off an alien military force to protect a refugee captured public imagination. Messages of support poured in from across the colonies. Taman found Nari in the observation room one evening, staring at the stars. "How are you holding up?" he asked. "I don't know," Nari admitted. "Everything is changing so fast." A month ago, I was property. Now I'm at the center of an interstellar incident. You're more than that, Taman said. You're proof that the Kreth system can be resisted, that their slaves can escape. That's powerful. Is it? Nari asked. One escaped slave against an empire. What difference does it make? All the difference in the world, Taman replied. Because you're not just one escaped slave anymore. You're a symbol. Every enslaved being in Kreth space is going to hear about you. They're going to know that escape is possible, that there are people out here who will help them, that freedom is real. Nari's bioluminescent patterns pulsed softly. The humans are really going to fight the Kreth, aren't they? Because of me. Not because of you, Taman corrected gently. Because of what the Kreth represent, because slavery is wrong, regardless of who's being enslaved. You opened our eyes to something that exists in this galaxy. Now that we know, we can't unknow it. We have to respond. You could die, Nari said. Your species could be destroyed. The Kreth are so powerful. Maybe, Taman acknowledged. But what kind of people would we be if we ignored this? If we just accepted that slavery exists and did nothing? We'd be complicit. We'd be cowards. A week later, officials from the Terran colonial government arrived. They held meetings with Captain Hana, Commander Daewon, and interviewed Nari extensively. Finally, they called everyone together in the outpost's repaired common room. Ambassador Yunho was an older man with kind eyes and a diplomatic bearing. He stood before them with a document in his hands. Nari of the Velthri people, he said formally, on behalf of the Terran colonial government and all of humanity, I want to apologize for what you have endured. We cannot undo the suffering you experienced under Kreth rule, but we can offer you something. He held up the document. This is an official grant of asylum and citizenship in Terran space. You are, as of this moment, a citizen of the Terran colonies with all the rights and protections that entails. You are free. Truly free. Nari stared at the document, tears streaming down her face. I don't have to earn this? I don't have to pay for it? No, Ambassador Yunho said gently. This is your right as a thinking being seeking refuge from oppression. Welcome home, Nari. She took the document with trembling hands. Soman hugged her while the others applauded. For the first time in 4 years, Nari had legal recognition as a person, not property. But the ambassador wasn't finished. There's more. Your testimony about the Kreth Dominion has been heard by our government. We're taking this matter to the Galactic Council. We're demanding that the Kreth be held accountable for their crimes against sentient species. Will it work? Daewon asked. I don't know, Ambassador Yunho admitted. We're new to galactic politics. We don't have much influence yet, but we have to try. We can't stand by while this continues. Captain Hana spoke up. The Navy is already drawing up contingency plans. If the Kreth respond with force, we'll be ready. We're not a weak species. They'll learn that the hard way if necessary. Over the following weeks, the outpost returned to some semblance of normalcy. Repairs were completed. New security systems were installed. The Kreth prisoners were eventually exchanged for human citizens that the Kreth claimed had violated their territorial boundaries. But nothing was truly the same as before. Nari chose to stay at the outpost. Ambassador Yunho had offered to relocate her to a colony world, somewhere more comfortable and safer. But Nari refused. This is where I found freedom, she explained. This is where I learned what humanity means. I want to stay here, with the people who saved me. The crew was delighted. Nari had become part of their family. The outpost wouldn't be the same without her. She began working as a cultural liaison, helping Terran officials understand what she knew about the Kreth and other species in that region of space. She also started learning human languages directly, determined to communicate without translation aids. One evening, 3 months after the incident, the entire crew gathered for dinner. It was a celebration of sorts. The outpost had just received word that the Galactic Council had agreed to hear humanity's case against the Kreth. "It's a long shot," Daewon said, raising his glass. "But it's a start. To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," the others echoed. Nari stood, her bioluminescent patterns glowing brightly. She had learned enough human customs to know she should say something. "When I came to this place," she said carefully, her human language still accented but clear, "I was dying, cold, broken. I thought I would beg for my life and offer the only things I believed had value. My ability to serve, my ability to bear children, because that's what I had been taught I was worth." She looked around at the faces of her friends. "But you showed me something different. You showed me that I have worth just for being alive, that I deserve dignity, that I don't have to earn the right to exist." Her voice grew stronger. 3 months ago, I was property. Today, I am a citizen. I am a person. I am free. And that happened because 6 humans decided that principles matter more than safety, that standing up for what's right is worth any cost. Taemin smiled at her. "You would have done the same for us." "I would," Nari agreed. "But I learned that from you, from all of you. You taught me what it means to be free, not just physically, but in spirit." She raised her own glass. "I cannot pay you back for what you've given me, but I can promise this. I will spend the rest of my life making sure other enslaved beings learn about humanity, about your kindness, your courage, your belief that all thinking beings deserve freedom. I will be a voice for those who have no voice." "You already are," Samin said warmly. "You testified to the council. You're helping us understand the Kreth. You're making a difference." "And she's an amazing cook," Minho added, making everyone laugh. As the evening wore on, Nari found herself on the observation deck with Taemin. They stood side by side, looking up at the stars. In orbit above them, more ships had arrived. Human ships, vessels from the growing Terran Navy. "They're building a fleet," Nari observed. "Preparing for war." "Preparing for anything," Taemin corrected. "We don't want war, but we won't back down from it either." "The Kreth will come," Nari said. "Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but they will come. They don't accept defiance." "Then we'll be ready," Taemin replied. "And we won't be alone. Your story is spreading across the galaxy. Other species are paying attention. They're learning that the Kreth can be resisted, that there are people out here who believe in freedom." Nari was quiet for a moment. "Do you think we can win? Against the entire Dominion?" "I think," Taemin said carefully, "that winning isn't always about military victory. Sometimes it's about standing up for what's right, regardless of the cost. It's about showing the galaxy that some principles are worth fighting for." "That's very human," Nari said with a slight smile. "Is that a bad thing?" "No," Nari replied. "It's the best thing I've ever known." On the horizon, the sun was rising over Haniel 4's frozen landscape. The light caught the ice crystals in the air, creating rainbows that danced across the sky. Nari watched the sunrise and thought about how far she had come, from a terrified, broken slave begging in the snow to a free citizen standing in the warmth of friendship and respect. The journey had been painful, but worth it. Behind them, in the outpost, the rest of the crew was laughing and talking, human voices warm and alive. They had accepted her without condition, fought for her without hesitation, and showed her a kind of love she had never known existed. "Thank you," Nari said softly to Taemin, "for carrying me out of the snow that day, for giving me a chance to live." "Thank you," Taemin replied, "for teaching us that we're not alone in this galaxy, that there are people out here worth knowing, worth protecting, worth fighting for." They stood together as the sun rose higher, 2 people from different worlds united by a simple belief, that all thinking beings deserved dignity, freedom, and respect. News was already spreading through the galaxy. Ships were arriving from other oppressed species, seeking asylum in human space. The Terran government was scrambling to accommodate them all, but they never turned anyone away. A resistance was forming, not just of humans, but of every species that had suffered under the Kreth and empires like them. They were finding each other, finding hope. And at the center of it all was a small research outpost on a frozen moon, where 6 humans had decided that principles mattered more than survival. The Kreth had warned them the galaxy would crush naive idealists. But humanity had a different plan. They would show the galaxy that idealism backed by courage could change everything. That compassion was not weakness, but strength. That standing up for others was not foolishness, but wisdom. The battle had just begun. The war might last generations. But humanity had made their choice. They would stand for freedom. They would defend the vulnerable. They would fight against tyranny. And they would never, ever abandon someone who asked them for help. Because that was what it meant, to be human. As the first refugee ships began arriving in orbit, Nari smiled. She had come to this frozen moon expecting death, offering servitude just to survive another day. Instead, she had found something far more valuable. She had found people who believed in her worth, who fought for her freedom, who showed her that the galaxy didn't have to be ruled by cruelty and domination. She had found humanity, and through them, she had found herself. The story of the freezing alien girl who begged for her life was becoming a legend. But the real story was about the humans who heard that plea and decided that every life was worth saving, that every person deserved dignity, that freedom was a right, not a privilege, and that story was just beginning.